All right, guys, welcome to the first video of our Foundations module. This will be 4 different videos, 4 different topics that we'll look at as we lay the groundwork and foundation for what the Dad Tough program is all about and what this community really is about. I want to share with you a little bit of the story about how the Dad Tough brand and community began. When I was 37, I started to realize that my body was not keeping up with the way that I was eating and my a little bit lazier lifestyle. I had played sports all growing up as a kid, teenager, all through college. I was coaching varsity soccer for a high school, and in all of that, I was staying active, but I began to live more of a sedentary life and had a desk job and was not as active as I had been. And I began to notice that first sign of being out of shape. My belly was starting to hang over my belt. And so I started realizing that, and I started to make jokes about it. At 37 and 38 into 39, I was making the dad bod jokes, and that I was, going to look like my dad, and all of these types of excuses I was making for this is just the way that it goes. But by the time I turned 39, I looked ahead and realized I'm going to be 40 next year and I don't want to be out of shape. I don't want to go down that same road, and I need to do something about this. And so I had been following some fitness people online, and I finally decided. I tried several things on my own. I mean, I thought I know how to exercise. I know how to run, and but I wasn't staying accountable to it. And without the accountability, I failed. And so finally realized I had to lower my pride and say, I'm going to get somebody to help me. And so I hired an online fitness coach. And for 16 weeks, for 4 months, I did the plan. I had a meal plan and I had a workout plan. And I got a membership to the gym and I had devoted time to going to the gym. And in that time going to the gym, I realized if I do this, I'm going to have to give up something. And I didn't want to give up time with my wife. I didn't want to give up time with my kids. And so when was I going to be able to go? Well, I wasn't a morning person, but I became a morning person. I got up extra early. I went to the gym early. I got my shower at the gym and I went straight to work afterwards. And that began to be the rhythm for that 4 months. And I saw my life change. I saw the disciplines that I was using to get up early bled over into my spiritual life. It bled over into my relationships. My physical life changed. My mental life changed. And we'll talk more about some of those things later on in this module. But as those things began to change, I began to, as I was showing up for me, I was now able to be more the man that my wife needed and that my kids needed, and really that I needed to be on the job. And all those things began to become very clear for me in that 4 months that adopted that as my new lifestyle. This wasn't going to be a diet. It wasn't going to be a fad. It wasn't going to be something that came and went, and I was going to have to run that ebb and flow of fitness. This was now my lifestyle. This was who I was. And as I made those disciplines and changes, my world around me began to change. There's an illustration I like to use and adopt it from the flying on the airline. When the stewardess or the flight attendant says, in case of emergency, the oxygen masks will fall, and put it on yourself first and then on your child. That is exactly the way that we show up for those around us. If we are not showing up for ourselves, dads, we will not show up for our kids and those that we love and the people around us that are counting on us. And so the Dad Tough brand, this Dad Tough idea, is so that I would challenge men, dads in particular, to begin showing up for themselves first and then to show up for the people around them. So this idea of Dad Tough came about because I started looking at the changes that were going on in my life, the way that my life had changed, people were asking me, and they were seeing the results of my exterior. They were seeing the results and the difference in my life and how I was moving through life in my professional areas of life, also in personally. And so I was getting asked questions, and dads maybe asking me, "How do you do this? And what are you eating for this?" And also making the excuse like, "Well, I couldn't do that," and I would be burdened thinking, "Yes, you can. If I can do it, so can you." And thought, "How can I do that for dads who ask me, for men also who are in the same season of life that I was in and that I am today?" And that for the last 2 years, that has plagued my thoughts. And how do I help other men do the same thing that I did in my life? And finally, the Dad Tough idea was born in my heart and my head. And I wanted to find a way to help men just like you watching today to be able to grow. And you, let me say this, you, if you're watching this, you are the man that I was aiming after. Somebody who wants to take the next step, who knows it can't do it on his own, that we're not islands unto ourselves, that we have to lower our pride and say, yes, I want a community, I want help, I want a coach to lead me the next step so that I can show up for my family and be all that they want me to be and that I need to be for them. And living inside of that, you might call it the calling of your life. Living inside of that, how do you live inside that calling? And so, with all that being said, the Dad Tough brand, the community, was born in my heart and my head. And now I'm inviting you into it to be that dad, to be that man who walks forward. And what does it mean to be tough? We'll talk more about that in our coming episodes in this module. But first, I wanted to share with you just a few points, and then we'll move out of this introductory foundations video. First of all, there's the energy factor. You taking this step, it will change. It will change how you move through life. When I started getting up early, you thought, well, you get up early, you're going to be tired, and that actually, the change of rhythm and pace for me was tiring. But then my body changed and I got accustomed to it. And as I began to fuel my body differently, and as I began to work out in the gym, the energy that I was lacking coming home and just being extremely spent was coming back. I now had energy when I got home. And so I wasn't robbing my family of the evenings. I was going early in the morning to the gym, and then I was working all day, coming home, and had the energy to be able to sustain, to help with supper and to help with the dishes and to help with the kids, putting them to bed and getting things ready for the next day at school, and on, all of those things, helping around the house. I wasn't just coming and sitting around. I was actually a contributing piece to what we do in our home as a family. And dads, that's really the example you're trying to set, not come home and sit down like you're the king and everybody has to serve you, but that you come home and you serve everybody. And so the energy changed. I'm going to say this secondly, there's also the role model effect. I asked my kids when I was preparing this, I said, what does fitness mean? For me as a dad, what does it truly mean, and why does it matter as a dad? And I went to my kids and asked them these questions. What does it mean to you that your dad prioritized fitness? And they said things like this: it gives me easier access to fitness knowledge. One of them said, I can ask questions about fitness because you know all about it. One of them told me that it makes me proud that my dad isn't a slob and overweight. Ouch. Another one said, I don't feel embarrassed. The last thing I'll share with you that they said, it's made me more aware of fitness and health. I'm not oblivious to the certain types of foods and what a lazy lifestyle can do to a person. I think these are important pieces, and really, that kind of hit me hard because it reminded me that this isn't about me, but it's about those that are watching me. My kids are watching, and it kind of leads me to my last point, and that is the playing the long game. The long game, guys, it's not about just right now. Certainly, you can eat differently. You can put more effort forward and burn calories and eat less calories, and your body's going to change. But can I tell you, it's more than what you see in the mirror. It's more than the flex that you can give. But that long game, I want to be around for, I want to grow old with my wife. I want to be around to see my kids grow up, get married, graduate from college, whatever it may be that God has for their life. I want to be around to be able to see grandkids. I want to be able to play with my grandkids and not be winded or out of shape. I want to be an example in those ways. And your situation may be different. And so, for those of you who have different situations, certainly I'm not saying that what you're doing is wrong or things like that. But if you can prevent it, if it is something that's within your power to change and you're not changing it, this is the challenge to you. Take that step and change it. And because you're here, because you're subscribed inside of this community, you are taking those steps. And that's what I'm excited for you, because you will make the difference for your family because you're making the difference for you. And so I challenge you, walk forward in these modules, get all you can and make changes. Don't just hear everything that's being said, but make changes and use all the tools that are built inside here. If you're a dad watching this, I want you to start today. Don't wait for what we might say is the perfect moment. There won't ever be a perfect moment. So take a long walk, do 10 push-ups, make a better meal, something today. Make small changes today. Your kids are watching. Be the example that they will remember. And then that legacy that you're leaving behind will live out in their lives as well. All right, so thanks for watching this episode. We'll see you on the next one.